Welcome friends to this presentation on the Dom. Dom Tomato is a famous parkour athlete who is known for his flips and his crazy long jumps. And I'm sorry, I've just been informed that this is not the Dom that we are looking for. So, the Document Object Model, or DOM, is a programming interface for web documents. It represents the page so that programs can change the document structure, style, and content. The DOM represents the document as nodes and objects. That way, programming languages can interact with the page. That is from the MDM article on the DOM. And it's a great introduction, great source of knowledge on the topic. So, what does the DOM do for us? It provides a structure to access document elements, allows us to make pages dynamic. It allows us to access content and the style of elements, connect other APIs. It allows us to interact with various programming languages, usually JavaScript in our case. It provides a connection between the page and that code. And it allows for parkour. I'm told that that may not be the case. In the interest of full disclosure, I do not practice parkour because I'm pretty sure I would hurt myself. So, the DOM interface is basically a representation or an interface that gives us access to the structure of an HTML document, its elements, its styles, its content. So the root object is the document itself, and that includes properties, and it is the parent of all the other nodes that are in that tree. And then a node is an element generally, or it can be text or an attribute, and these are within the hierarchy of the web page itself. So in our HTML document, we have the structure, and this is a representation of that and allows us to interact with it. So an element is a node of type element, which could be, a paragraph, could be a list item, could be a heading. And then our node list is an array of elements. So that's something we'll see with some of the function calls that we make to the DOM. And the way we use it is with these commonly used methods. So you'll often see us use a document.querySelector. A lot of these will look familiar. There's a query selector all. These both take valid CSS selectors as their argument, so you can select by class or the hierarchy within the document itself. Then you can create a new element. You can append a child, a node that you just created, to its parent to add things to the document. And then as far as elements go, you can access the inner HTML, which we've done. You can change style, you can get and set attributes, and you can add listeners, which allows you to connect up functionality in your code to various objects like buttons. So how do we use the DOM? It's available through JavaScript or other languages. In fact, you've already been using it. So this is from the JavaScript that does the updates to the footer on my website for the assignment portal. And here you can see where on the bottom here it uses document.lastModified to get the last modification date of the document itself as served up. So let's take a look. And yes, thank you very much for your attention so far. Let's take a look at how this works. So we're familiar with the developer tools, and that we can see this hierarchy here, which shows us the structure of our page. Very handy. We can see that we have 3 sections. So if we want to take a look at how the DOM, how we can interact with it, we can do the document itself, which will give us pretty much the same thing we have up above. So we have the document with all of its children, all of its nodes. But it becomes more useful when we're looking for something specific. So if we want to, say, get a list of our sections in here, we could do document query selector all, and let's do section. So this, if we push enter properly, will return a node list. So that's a list of nodes. It has 3 of them. And you'll see each one corresponds to one of the sections in our HTML document. And if we drill down in here, we can see that there are a lot of attributes that we can access or interact with. The one we've used before the most is probably this inner HTML, which in this case contains another heading and an unordered list. So now if we want to interact with this, we can do something like this. We can say, let's do document selector all section items. Let's look at the second one, and let's change its background color since I already have this. It's something I've done before. So if we go ahead and execute this, we're now going to set the background color attribute of the style attribute of this section element that we're looking at. And you'll see that over here it changes to that new color. So let's take a look at some of the other things we could do with access through the DOM. So we're going to look at this simple to-do list. And this is something that was based on an example on the Mozilla Developer Network. It has some additions to be able to use local storage, so it should persist from one session to another. So if we want to enter a new item, let's say learn about the DOM. We want to add that as a to-do item. So now we see that there's now a new thing here in the page, and if we expand this, not that one. Okay, so in our to-do items, we now have this new item, learn about the DOM, and let's add one for parkour. Why not? There we go. Okay, so what's going on here? Now we can look at the sources for this. We'll look at the JavaScript file. And basically what's going on is we're adding an event listener to the add to do button up here, which is going to call this onAddClick function. And then if we look at that, it's going to look at what's in the text input, which is going to be the title of our to-do item, and it's going to pass that to this add item function. So let's go find that one. Okay. So in add item, we're starting out, we have the parent element, and then we have the description. The description is that text, and the parent is the container where this is going to end up, which is the unordered list. So first it's going to create an element of a list item. It's going to create a span, which is going to hold the text to describe what our to-do item is, and then a button, which is going to be our done button. And then we set a few properties on our list item. We're going to set the class named item padding, so it gets the same kind of CSS styling that class defines. Then we're going to append the button and the span as children of the list item. So they're going to be inside of it. Then we go through and we set our text content for the span, which is the description of the to-do item itself, and then the text that's on the button is done. And then we're going to set focus back to our input item. Now we add a listener to the button we just created, this new done button that's part of our new list item, and what it's going to do is it's going to call this parent node remove function with the description. So that's how it's going to know what to take out of the list of to-do items from that unordered list. And then once that's done, we just go to the parent element, which is our unordered list. We append the list item we just created, which is in this li variable. I know it's a terrible name. And that's pretty much it. So that's how we add things there. And then the remove button allows us to say, well, we learned something about the DOM. Let's go over here and we're going to click on done. And we'll see now that that list item has been removed. And that's all done through JavaScript by using the DOM. It's really powerful. It's pretty interesting to figure out how these things work. It's not recommended that you build big chunks of your structure in your document through code like this. But for something like this, where we're doing a to-do list, where we just want to be able to dynamically add things to the page, it's a pretty handy way to go. I hope that you've learned something and that you've enjoyed this presentation. And I know that a lot of times when we're trying to learn things, we feel like this is our level of parkour expertise. From the show The Office. Yeah. So the message is, don't be discouraged. Anything that we're working on takes practice. It takes trying things. And the nice thing about using the DOM or CSS or your web development is that you're not going to break any bones if you make a mistake. Thank you. I hope you have a great evening.